We finally got Nintendo Switch Sports in our hands. Well, I got it digitally, but I wanted to give a first impression of how the game handles, how the motion controls are, and is the game fun from the perspective of a player and a personal trainer who just loves motion control gaming. Now, because I'm still writing my review, this isn't as in-depth, but my first impression of each game has mostly been positive. Far from the cries of unfinished game that I keep seeing everywhere, each sport feels fun and well made, and especially for tennis and bowling, it recaptures that warm tickle of nostalgia that I was craving. But let's start at the start. The game brings you straight into the menu where you select what you want to do. It gives you online, local, and online with friends, basically. I've been having internet problems all day, and I'll go into that a little bit more, but I have played everything online and I've played everything offline to get a feel for the games. But as I said, good first impression for each of the games. Now let's start with bowling. This was my favourite from the original Wii Sports, so it made sense to jump straight into that one and see if it felt the same, and honestly, it feels great. I keep wanting to release the ZR as I throw because that's just how it was on the Wii as far as I remember. And the lanes feel good, it's simple to pick up the motion controls, it's pretty great. At the moment, the only criticism I really have of bowling is that the ball just doesn't quite feel heavy enough, or maybe it's that the pins just, they don't have the right clatter. I don't know if it's maybe like just the sound doesn't sound right to me, but I really want the ball to like bang, smash into those pins. And yeah, it just doesn't quite get it for me. But to be honest, the actual game itself plays really well, so I don't really have any complaints as such. Tennis is the other sport from the OG Wii Sports, and again feels pretty similar to its past title. 2-on-2, very simple with both players under your control in one player mode. It feels very good. It honestly is my least favourite of the games so far though. And I think this is because it feels a little bit one and done, like the matches don't really feel very different between themselves. Like with the other sports, every match feels a little bit fresher, or like there's something a little bit different in each one, but possibly it's just to do with the opponents I've had, but it's felt very simple to just kind of rally, smash, and that's been it. So hopefully when I get more online play in, it's going to feel a little bit better, but for now, my least favourite of them. Chambara comes from Wii Sports Resort, and it's just a whole heap of fun. The consistent strikes and mind games from where your opponent is going to guard and strike from is awesome, and it creates a lot of opportunity for fun. I'm fairly decent at it already, and I like using all three of them. I really like the charge aspect. Not so much with the twin swords. The twin swords is fine. It's actually a little bit complicated for me to kind of figure out what I'm doing with the twin swords, but it charges a lot quicker, whereas I like the charge sword that you've got to do some good guards and some good attacks in order to really kind of get that powerful attack in. It feels like you earn it a lot more, which I really enjoy that. The motion controls themselves pretty responsive. I have had a few things where I've swiped horizontal and it's gone diagonal, which has kind of been frustrating because it's then blocked. But in general, the motion controls have been pretty good, so no complaints there. I think this is genuinely one of the more fun ones in the game though. I also reckon this one is definitely going to be good as a party game. Stuff is going to get really intense really fast with it. Badminton is the first of the newbies, and this one genuinely surprised me. The single rallies got pretty intense to keep up, and if you want to play around with it, it can get quite difficult. I'm learning quick how to trip people up with the drop shot, and it feels quite different to tennis, and I think it's more of an endurance game than tennis feels. Possible controversial thought, I think that tennis and badminton should have been combined. There is definitely some differences with badminton, which is awesome. I actually prefer it to tennis in this game, but I feel like it could easily have been a one-player mode for tennis, or that we could have had doubles badminton, and not much would have been lost from the game. It means that they could have focused on golf as well, which would have been really nice. But yeah, look, I think that they could have been combined, but honestly, badminton is pretty fun, and those rallies are really good. I'm really enjoying that. So volleyball next, and I really enjoyed this at first. The timing's pretty important here, and if you fluff it up, you get weaker shots. Each game seems to have some routine to it, which is fun to learn, but it quickly gets boring against the simple and hard CPUs. The Powerhouse CPU is a great challenge, and it really gets you into some blocking. I was actually really surprised at how important blocking was in this game. It looked like kind of this routine that you get into, which is kind of fun, but then blocking really changes it up, especially if you get the timing right. So definitely important to learn. It's interesting how each game kind of flows the same though, and that creates a little bit of a repetitive vibe. Like the motion controls have worked really well. The timing especially important on this one, which is great, but Yeah, it could use a little bit of a zhuzh, really. I think probably it's going to feel a bit better once I have played a bit more online. Again, same sort of thing with tennis for me. But the last sport is soccer. It's definitely not the least though. The Rocket League comparison is funny, but also kind of accurate, although it is very much slower. I've played a few offline matches and only one online, and they flow very well. The stamina bar and button controls really make this feel like a different experience, and it blends with motion controls well. I reckon Switch Sports should have played with the button and motion combo a little bit better. I think the motion controls work really well as themselves, and they work for the sports that they do, but the use of the button controls in one hand and the motion in the other is really refreshing, and it could have really widened up the scope of the sports that they use. So I hope that if we get the rumoured baseball and dodgeball and was it basketball, I can't remember, whichever ones, I hope that they do use some button controls in there as well. They could also use it for that running mode that I really want and has now been rumoured. And yes, I know that the rumour is by Samus Hunter, and I know that's not reliable, but I really want running in this game, so I'm just gonna run with it. But sorry, went off on a little bit of a tangent there. With footy, yeah, controls really well, feels really fun, definitely my favourite of the 3 new sports. Now, as I said, I want to go into the game a little bit further before I do my full review, but most of the impressions and controls have been good for each of the games. No silly motions that are going to hurt you, although if you wanted to warm up those shoulders ahead of a few bowling rounds, I wouldn't say no. Let's talk about my terrible online experience though. When I get a match, it's been a really smooth experience. No noticeable lag, frame rate drops or input issues. The game's play as intended, my motions are as intended, and that's honestly fantastic. I was expecting at least some frame rate drops, but no, it's been pretty great. I've hardly been able to get an online match though. Like, I've seriously probably done about 10 rounds of online in total between all of the sports. I've been trying, but I keep getting different errors. I don't think it is to do with the amount of players, because I know there's a lot of people playing, and I know that a lot of people aren't getting these errors, so it might just be my connection. Basically, yeah, so I haven't been able to fully experience online. I've been able to unlock a few things. I know how customization works, as you know. I've done a guide for it already, how it works, and I've seen plenty of the online experience, how it works, but I just haven't experienced enough to really get that PvP experience, which I think is going to make this game feel a lot better. It'll be interesting to see if my perceptions of any of those sports really change after I've done that. A quick look at customization. It's very simple to do, not too much to it. It's pretty easy to unlock. You feel like you're being rewarded quite quickly online from what I've experienced. However, I really don't like that customization is only online. Considering this is a paid game, it cost me 56 Australian dollar dues. The mandatory online membership to get the cosmetics is a bit of a joke. Like, they easily could have done a few offline ones, you know, a certain range that's available offline all the time, and then done more interesting ones online to still create the same sort of incentive to play online, but instead offline players are kind of being screwed here, and I don't really like that. It's not very family friendly for a family friendly game. And that's the thing, it is a family friendly title. This game looks and sounds fresh and very Nintendo-y. I know that sounds like a weird statement, but you've got all these lovely Nintendo-esque sounds. It's bright and colourful and really feels like a good fit and a good successor to Wii Sports so far. The games here are well made and they handle very well. As far as other options go, well, I want to talk about that in my full review, and I want a bit more time to think and play and discuss it before I get onto it. And I also want to make sure that my internet isn't playing up so much so I can get the full skinny on this bad boy of a game. Overall, my first day impressions have been pretty positive, as I said. Despite my online issues, each game has felt good. I think it's worth your time to play if you're looking for a good active motion control game. There's not too much activity, as in like real full body motions yet, but you could definitely do that if you want to over-exaggerate some of the stuff, especially with Shambara and bowling. I reckon you might need to rest after a couple of days of bowling. But yeah, it's pretty good so far. I'm pretty happy with it. Obviously, customization stuff set aside, online issues set aside, because I think that's likely to be my own problem rather than Nintendo Switch Sports. But yeah, I think if you're looking for a good active motion control game that you can play with a lot of friends, if you're looking for a great party game, this is going to rank up there as one of the best that the Nintendo Switch has to offer. So yeah, definitely don't sleep on this. Go get one when you can. So are you picking up the game yet? What other stuff do you want me to cover? Let me know in the comments and I'll be dropping that full review on everything over the next week. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button to get all the latest content as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks to my patrons like Rain, I Love Waffles 1311 and Sick Hippie for the amazing support I get through Patreon. Really, really fantastic. Thank you so much. I've been Master Trainer Peter, and I'll see you real soon.